Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between.
I don't know what this world is coming to.
Either I'm the kid that God forgot about, or life is a simulation, and I chose Hall of Fame difficulty before I hit the start button.
What do you think? Now that you know what I am.
Oh, to know what you are, William, would take a lifetime. One I am most willing to give, but right now you've got to run. There is nothing else to do. Run, and I will run with you.
Jocelyn, I cannot run. I'm a knight, and I will put myself to the hazard.
A knight in your heart, but not on paper, and paper's all that matters to them.
William, I love you. I love you. You. And I'm sorry, but I won't see you led away bound for the stocks.
Oh, but you will see me run? No!
Damn your pride, William. It is you and only you that will not see you run.
My pride is the only thing they can't take from me.
They can take it from you. They can, and they will. Oh, they will.
So, quick life update. I told y'all about the insurance claim that's been open on my upstairs bathroom since like mid-June. Well, the restoration company finally got back to me this past week, and they said that the estimate was approved by my insurance company, and they are ready to move forward with the repairs. Yes, good news. But the estimate is $1,950. My insurance deductible is $2,000, which means since it is $50 short of my deductible, I'm going to have to pay out of pocket. My God, it's funny because the insurance company was very adamant in the beginning about how going through the claims and going through getting the repairs done, the repairs were recommended to go through an approved vendor to ensure that the repairs will be covered. And essentially, you know, if it were to go through an unapproved vendor, they can't guarantee that they will recover all the repair costs. So I followed the process. I went through, you know, someone that they, you know, chose. And with the damage being that close to being just under my deductible, I just have a hard time believing that they don't partner in this way and do this on purpose so the insurance company doesn't have to pay out of pocket for anything. And they wonder why so many Americans, I guess those of us with common sense, are becoming radicalized.
Sir? Listen, folks, I hate to spoil your fun, but there's no such thing as rights, okay? We made them up. They're imaginary, like the Boogeyman, the Three Little Pigs, Pinocchio, stuff like that. It's fictional idea, rights. People say, well, they come from God. They're God-given rights. Oh, fuck, here we go again. The God excuse, the last refuge of a man with no answers and no argument, it came from God. But let's say it's true. Let's say it's true that God gave us these rights. Fine. Why would he give us a certain number of rights? The Bill of Rights in this country has 10 stipulations, 10 rights. And by the way, God must have been doing sloppy work because we've had to amend the Bill of Rights an additional 17 times. God left out a few things like slavery. Just fucking overlooked it that day.
Sir?
Yourself from this position of honor.
I am here to compete.
You are here to be arrested.
He that strives to touch a star Oft stumbles at a simple straw. You have been weighed. You have been measured. And you have been found wanting. One loss or another, William. In what world could you have ever beaten me?
What the fuck that mean?
This week in What the Fuck News, the news that is the direct result of the chaos that we have experienced this year from the Trump administration started off with a bang, with Trump and his friends stating that they have solved the mystery of autism. Yes, according to Trump and friends, this is due to women taking Tylenol while they are pregnant. I actually believe we have some footage from the press conference, so we're going to go ahead and go to our colleague who's at the White House right now listening to Trump speak.
Pregnant women should not be taking this medication Epstein. God damn. There's some names on this month. Acetaminophen. Epstein. It's Tylenol. In Cuba, they got no autism over there. None. And they don't have Tylenol. Come on. Also, I want to touch on amoxicillin. God damn. Oh, that's what that is? Ain't gonna never be able to say that shit. God damn. Yo, what up, what up? It's your boy, Dictator Don, a.k.a. Sweet Don Senior. I'm doing it. At the White House with my girl, J.D. Vance. That ain't right. I can't read nothing on that thing. I recommend that pregnant women take Advil instead of Tylenol. It's gonna get rid of the autism completely.
Come on, let's be real, y'all. Autism has been around since the beginning of time, if we're being honest. But the term autism itself was first used in 1911 by a Swiss psychiatrist by the name of Eugene Buehler. And it was used to describe like a subset of schizophrenia. And that was with the science and information that they had at the moment. Now, it was around 1943 that autism was recognized as a distinct condition. Meanwhile, Tylenol was introduced in the USA in 1955. It doesn't add up. And anytime something doesn't add up, all you have to do is follow the money to figure out what is really going on.
Here's a question. Why did the Trump administration say that Tylenol was causing autism and not acetaminophen? The active ingredient in Tylenol, the generic Tylenol. That was kind of weird. It was very intentional. I'll tell you why. Because Tylenol is owned by a company called Kenvue, which was a spin-off of Johnson & Johnson in 2023. Kenvue is trying to focus on health and beauty products. So they own things like Tylenol, Benadryl, but also like Aveeno, the lotion, different acne brands, etc. There was also a company created in 2023 called iHerb, which Dr. Oz, who works in the Trump administration and played a key role in all of this, he owns at least $25 million worth of iHerb. He's also an advisor for that company. You know what iHerb focuses on? Health and beauty products, things like acne stuff, lotions, different medicine. So there's no evidence of any of what they said today. People are just getting rich because our government is more corrupt than ever. And furthermore, they said, here's our solution to people suffering with autism symptoms. Folinic acid. You know who sells folinic acid? iHerb.
Then on Tuesday, September 23rd, we had a rapture. Oh, you don't believe me? Well, here's some live footage from the rapture.
The rapture's starting. God, I'm ready.
Wait, what's happening? No, God, you're supposed to be taking me. I'm the devoted Christian.
I wasn't even religious. I just followed a just moral code.
I have Bible verses in my bio, and I bought white supremacist memorial merch.
I knew Jesus was a person of color.
But they embrace immigrants and trans people. And those two are gay.
I told you gay people were fine. I said pedos were wrong, and you elected them. Gotta go. We're hosting a drag show in the New Kingdom. Bye.
Wait, God? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Also, I was able to interview someone with a first-hand account of surviving the rapture. I mean, this is incredible. This is incredible, y'all. Just take a listen.
I got raptured yesterday. I was just folding laundry, and then bam, I'm in heaven. And God's like, what are you doing here? And I go, I don't know. I think I just got raptured. And he goes, oh, the rapture was today? And I'm like, you forgot the rapture? And he goes, look, pal, I'm not perfect. And I go, yes, you are. You're God. And he goes, yeah, I'm God, but I'm not like God. And I go, what does that mean? And he goes, yeah, don't worry about it. Anyway, what's Earth been like lately? And I go, you don't know? And he's like, no. I pay attention to the cool planets. Like, there's this one where all the guys got sick muscles and the girls shred guitars. I go, well, I guess there's some of that happening on Earth, but there's also a lot of evil. And he goes, evil? Like what? Like spitting and swearing? And I go, no, like murder. And he goes, murder? You guys are doing murders? And I go, well, not me, but people are. And he goes, you're not supposed to be doing that. And I go, I know, but people are doing it, and often there doesn't seem to be any consequences for it. And he goes, oh, well, yeah, your planet's And I go, yeah, well, maybe it wouldn't be if you paid any attention to it. And he goes, hey, I can't be everywhere all at once. And I go, yes, you can. You're omnipotent. And he goes, omnipotent in your pants. And he gives me a boner with his God magic and laughs his ass off for like 5 minutes. And then he's like, okay, I'll send you back. I got to cover up for the fact that I forgot the rapture again. God is this close to firing me. And I go, you can get fired? And bam, I'm back in my living room. And what's crazy is, I think he sent me back to the wrong timeline because cats can't talk anymore. They used to be able to talk. They had whole civilizations. Now they're walking around like a common squirrel. Everything else is the same, though.
Yes. So if you're listening to this, I am sorry to break the news to you, but you were not one of the chosen Christians who ascended into heaven earlier this week. You are a heathen like the rest of us who are still stuck in purgatory. Yes, indeed. And the hits kept on hitting. Because moving on to Wednesday, September 24th, a Dallas ICE facility had a shooting around 6:48 a.m. 4 people were shot. 2 were confirmed dead, including the shooter. And within minutes of the shooting, FBI Director Kash Patel took to his Twitter to tweet out, this morning, just before 7 a.m. local time, an individual fired multiple rounds at a Dallas, Texas ICE facility, killing 1, wounding several others before taking his own life. FBI, DHS, ATF are on the ground with Dallas PD and state authorities. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows an ideological motive behind this attack. See the photo below. One of the unspent shell casings recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE. More updates will be forthcoming. These despicable, politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not a one-off. We're only miles from Pearland, Texas, where just 2 months ago, an individual ambushed a separate ICE facility targeting their officers. It has to end. And the FBI and our partners will lead this investigative efforts to see it. And those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice. Thankfully, no law enforcement personnel were injured. Please pray for the injured and deceased. And that was followed with a picture of what looks like 5 unspent shell casings. And one of them, he says it was engraved, but it honestly looks more like a blue Sharpie wrote anti-ICE on one of the bullets. And quite frankly, all of this is odd. First, why would the FBI director post pictures of unconfirmed evidence from the scene of an open investigation? Like, isn't that weird? Well, I think probably because of the political agenda that this administration has, because shortly thereafter, President Trump responded to the shooting by blaming the radical left, vowing to sign another executive order to dismantle what he calls the domestic terrorism networks. And this was all within, an hour or so of the shooting happening. The bodies weren't even cold yet, and the Trump administration was already getting out and ahead of the story to make sure you all knew the radical left is after everyone. Now, the shooter being a far left extremist is interesting, and they're taking that from their notion of one of the shell casings having anti-ice on it, but who actually uses the phrasing anti-ice? As far as I'm aware of, a lot of leftists often say fuck ice, or they say abolish ice. But the only people I personally ever see say something to the extent of anti-ice typically are Republican lawmakers. That's just an observation of my own. Take it with a grain of salt. Also, it was interesting that the shooter supposedly wrote anti-ice on the bullets, but then shot the immigrants that were being detained. Like, it doesn't add up. Now, as the week progressed, we got to find out who the shooter was, and we end up getting some more information. The shooter's name is Joshua Jan, Jhan, I believe it's pronounced Jan, and a journalist by the name of Ken Kimpelstein reached out to a couple people who knew the gunman, the 29-year-old Joshua Jan, and three who knew him since at least middle school. They all agreed to speak with this journalist on the condition that he not name them, and essentially they corroborated their friendship with photos and other records. So to prove that they just weren't some people who wanted to, spread some misinformation, they actually knew the guy and had photographic evidence that they knew this person. Now, their accounts paint the picture of someone who was vaguely libertarian, who honestly despised both major parties and politicians in general, including Trump, and they didn't really engage with politics beyond that. Now, his friends say that he preferred edgy humor, video games, and the message board 4chan, all of which became increasingly steeped. He increasingly got roped into as he withdrew from a social life as well as their own friendship several years ago. So painting that picture, this is someone who fell into the rabbit hole of the message board 4chan and slowly started to isolate themselves from the real world and started living holistically within the online world of video games and 4chan. Now, none of his former friends believe that the anti-ICE inscription could possibly be sincere, feeling such a serious political statement was not quite who Joseph was. They said his humor was deeply ironic, often offensive, and aggressive to the point of alienation. So he used to rub people the wrong way, and people would stop fucking with him after a while. One of the friends who known Joshua since 8 said that he was never really into politics, and especially not politicians. He was into politics only in the 4chan sense, which was being a contrarian, provocative, boundary pushing for laughs, but not necessarily convention. And as someone who has kept an eye on the 4chan movement for some time, I could say wholeheartedly that without a shadow of a doubt, I have a hard time believing that a leftist would actively be browsing and using 4chan. It just doesn't add up. And quite frankly, I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but what we know so far from this shooting, as well as the Charlie Kirk shooting, was that it appears that these shootings were done with Mauser Model 98 rifles. And if that is true, this is why it's important. So the Mauser 98 design was essentially designed over a century ago. It was adopted in like 1898, and it's widely seen in museums. Some people do have it in private collections, surplus markets, and most of these military Mausers originally carried serial numbers and marks, but age, international movement, the records being just really complete, and just over time, it makes these particular weapons very difficult and sometimes impossible to trace to a specific modern owner, using our current technology of cataloging serial number tracing alone. So law enforcement tracing typically depends on the surviving records and the presence of readable identifying marks, and physical forensic evidence or investigative leads are often decisive where paperwork is not. So I think the reason why that is important is it isn't to say that it is impossible to like track these down, but if I'm putting my tinfoil hat on, it would be very easy for law enforcement to pin the possession of this firearm on anyone that they wanted to. And chances are no independent fact checkers or journalists would be able to do a deep dive and disprove that that person that the law enforcement is pointing at didn't do it. So it just opens up a can of worms of any and everyone could be pinned with a shooting like this if you have a weapon being used that is that hard to trace. Stay woke. Now, speaking of the Charlie Kirk shooting, we had some interesting events surrounding Charlie Kirk and his friends, if you will. Now, on September 21st, 2025, the memorial service for the conservative activist Charlie Kirk was held at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. The service was attended by over 90,000 people, who also left an utter fucking mess at the stadium, but that's a whole separate conversation to have. And if you thought that having this large of a memorial service for a, to be honest, podcaster, as well as having the entire White House administrative team put their jobs on hold to go be in attendance, if you thought all of that was weird, there probably is a reason why you felt it was weird, and I think that there was an overall larger message behind this spectacle.
Charlie Kirk's memorial service was bizarre, unless, of course, you're acquainted with the liturgy and theology of Christian nationalism.
My friends, we have had a revival in celebration of Charlie Kirk and of his Lord Jesus Christ.
It was evident that in Kirk, this very powerful movement had found its martyr, its hero, and they weren't going to waste their chance to tell the world what they were all about. The memorial service began with several hours of worship music, the biggest names in CCM on one stage there in Kirk's honor.
Come on, can we just lift our hands all across this place?
And then the speeches started. It was essentially a who's who of Trump loyalists.
Christianity, we are on the side of God.
At one point, one of Kirk's colleagues likened it to a Trump rally.
Charlie's having some serious heavenly FOMO right now. He always said to me, if we could just figure out how to bring the Holy Spirit into a Trump rally.
Kirk's pastor delivered a sermon and an appeal for people to accept Jesus as their personal savior.
If there's any in this room and across the globe that would desire to receive Jesus as their savior as Charlie did as a young man, I ask you to stand right now to receive the Lord.
But it was followed by a call to stand for the national anthem. Christian nationalists have made it their hallmark to mix the sacred and the secular, where praise and partisanship are strange bedfellows. This was a feature of almost every speech, but two stood out to me specifically. One was Benny Johnson's speech, where he claimed that God ordained Trump to wield a sword against evil men in our own nation.
May we pray that our rulers here, rightfully instituted and given power by our God, wield the sword for the terror of evil men in our nation in Charlie's memory.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent.
And the second came from a man frequently criticized for using white supremacist talking points, Jack Posobiec. Jack predicted how Western civilization will be saved.
That a century from now, when they write of the 2 or 3 pivotal moments that led to the saving of Western civilization, they will write that the sacrifice of Charles James Kirk was the turning point.
Kirk's memorial service put on full display the Christian nationalist vision of the world, one that is consumed by the belief that Christians are at war, a culture war of good versus evil playing out on the political stage specifically. In the mind of the Christian nationalists, they are the good ones, the real Christians, and they reiterated time and time again their belief that they have the mandate of heaven, God's calling, to defeat anyone who dare stand in their way.
Now, I do agree with them that Charlie Kirk's assassination is a turning point in this nation. I just think me and that group of people have a completely different opinion about what direction this has turned the country. I would argue that anyone who is paying attention, who is not a white Christian heterosexual, probably saw clips from that event and are utterly terrified, as we should be. This is dangerous territory that we're crossing over into. Now, to continue to some other weird things surrounding just Charlie Kirk and those around them, with Charlie Kirk now deceased, that kind of left a huge gap within the leadership for the Charlie Kirk Turning Point podcast movement. And Charlie Kirk's widow, Erika Kirk, seemed more than happy to step in and keep that movement alive. But we also learned some very interesting things about Erika this week.
So she was Miss Arizona in the Miss USA pageant. Why is that a big deal? Because she was Miss Arizona back when Trump owned the pageant. But we know he's owned businesses in the past. Why is that crazy? It's not. She even did normal pageant girl things like charity work. Hers happened to be in Romania. Is that out of the ordinary? Nope. But at the time, Romania did have an out of the ordinary missing child problem. Well, that's not really good, but how does that relate? Well, these children would be found in countries like the UK, Israel, and even places like remote private islands. Oh. Oh. And the town where the charity operated out of was a hub of this problem. No. And there's a video on Vimeo from her personal Vimeo account from before she was married, where she documents a trip showing soldiers giving these kids presents and thanking one very specific military leader at the end of the video. Don't tell me. The same leader was implicated by a NATO translator in a scheme related to operating a brothel on a military base, though you won't find a single article in English that talks about it. And the investigation went nowhere. What the fuck? Don't forget that just was charity work. She has been on and off employed by Donald Trump the entire time. Get out of here. That on-stage moment doesn't seem so weird now, does it? What, are you trying to say all of this was like a distraction or something like that? Nope. But I am saying that if it was, let's just say it like this. If I broke your window playing baseball, the last thing I should do is come to your house and run laps around your front yard with the bat in my hand. It's the last thing I should be doing.
Boy, oh boy, is this shit getting deep. And again, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, because for the past fucking 10, 15 years, I have been criticizing the right wing for all of the conspiracy shit that has been going on. But it just seems like politics in America has extremely shifted, and it's just kind of hard to make sense of what the fuck is going on when there's clearly times that the government and this administration is lying to us to paint some type of picture, some type of narrative. It only makes you start to question what the fuck is actually going on. And then as you pay closer attention to everything that's going on, it gets very confusing that so many of these people have so many ties with one another. And also, it's so weird that so much of this seems to somehow indirectly tie back to child sex trafficking. Whew. I don't know. Shit is spooky. Now going back to the Charlie Kirk death. There's been a lot of questions about the people around Charlie and how they have responded to it. There was the clip of them asking Trump the next day when he was on the White House lawn and asking him how, he felt about the Charlie passing. He kind of immediately brushed over that and was talking about, some new construction on the White House lawn. A lot of people questioned Erika's response to everything. She posted the video before the memorial service of her basically at Charlie's casket holding his hand and like crying, which was very odd to post something like that on social media. Like, that's a private moment that you would want to keep private, but for whatever reason, they felt it was very important for people to see that. And then furthermore, when she did her speech at the memorial service and when she did the very, quite frankly, what feels like a bad acting job of, trying to force some tears to come up and then looking up into the sky and when referencing the shooter saying, "I forgive him." And you have all these right-wing people that are like, "Oh my God, that was so Christian-like of her to do something like that." And even, what's his name? Tim Allen, the guy who was on Home Improvement, who was also a fucking coke dealer back in the day, who snitched on his coke dealer, but that's a whole nother, conversation to be had at another time. He also had someone, I believe like his father had got murdered, and then he went online and was like, "Oh my God, Erika Kirk gave me the strength to forgive my father's killer." And it just all seems put on. It seems all like this Christian nationalist presentation that they were putting on to their fan base to further ramp up whatever the fuck is actually going on in this nation today. But one person that actually does really seem distraught over Charlie Kirk's passing is Candance Owens. And Candance Owens has really been looking like someone who is grieving and someone who does not believe the stories that are being put out by the government. And she's actually been crashing out online.
You guys, the plot is thickening big time. Candance Owens just dropped a bunch of information on her Instagram stories. I think we should debrief. She starts off with, "I want to break this news immediately because it feels important, and I think if I don't break it immediately, something bad might happen. I hope I have earned the trust enough of the people to believe me when I say that I have verified this information but cannot reveal the source." Tyler Robinson is not, I can't say that next word on here. The entire narrative that was placed in the media about him having been blank is completely fictional, as are many other aspects of what we have been told. His father having turned him in after a confession is also complete fiction. To the contrary, Tyler Robinson maintains his innocence and has never even been to the UVU campus. There are absolutely zero photos or videos that the campus can produce to the contrary, which is true. We have not seen videos, pictures of Tyler on the roof, on the campus, nothing. She goes on to say, which is why they have produced nothing other than a blurry image which Tyler's family knows is not him. Tyler has never once expressed a blank thought. I want to make that clear. The federal government is lying about absolutely everything other than the fact that it is his weapon. I don't really care what your perspective is on politics or where you stand with Candance Owens, but what we are being fed via the news feels very false. There isn't enough information. We're not seeing actual evidence, and the story doesn't make sense. Candance is right on harping on the fact that why isn't there any video footage of Tyler on the roof of a campus building or on the campus in general? All the feds essentially have are these really made up text messages where Tyler spells out every single thing he did that matches perfectly to the feds' description of what happened that day. The feds never took firsthand accounts when people were trying to report to them what they saw happen when they were there witnessing everything. I want to know why we haven't heard anything from Tyler's family. Not a cousin, not a far-off family member. It's like nobody is speaking to the public, which is very strange to me. Anyways.
Now, I can't prove what is true and what is false surrounding Charlie's assassination, but one thing that I think is very obvious is there is a pattern, and it's an obvious pattern that if you have been paying attention to all these shootings is right in front of your face. And our current administration does not want you to pay attention to this pattern.
Every time one of these tragic shootings happens, everybody's at each other's throats about which side did it, but we're missing a broader pattern in America. This was another young white dude who's in his 20s. We have seen this pattern accelerating over the past decade. The same day Charlie Kirk was shot, the same exact time, there was a neo-Nazi who shot up a school in Colorado. We can look at the acceleration of the radicalization of young men through a few frameworks. There's the COVID pandemic, which had people isolated, had a bubble around themselves, and a lot of young men failed to pull that bubble down and got sucked down these algorithms. I've seen it happen to my close friends. They get sucked down these algorithms. We have foreign actors trying to sow chaos in America, sow division. How much does Putin salivate when he sees us at each other's throats? Then we have domestic actors, people like Elon Musk, riling it up. So all of these factors, wait, hold up, Ben. All of these factors come together to create this pattern that we see of young men in my age range committing these shootings. And if you want to sit here and go back and forth, tit for tat, I can say Dylan Roof, Robert Bowers, John Earnest, none of these were black people, none of these were trans people, none of these were even Democrats. These were neo-Nazis who had things carved into their guns. You can sit here and muddy the waters, but you are just lying.
I just don't want innocent people to die. Sue me for that.
Then maybe tell Trump to tone down his rhetoric.
Once again, not a minority, not a queer person, not a trans person, not an immigrant. Now, you may say that, okay, there's, some type of pattern, there's something going on, but you can't say that the government is covering it up. And yes, I can. Because the week of the Charlie Kirk shooting, the U.S. Justice Department removed a study from their website which concluded that far-right extremists have killed far more Americans than any other domestic terror group. Now, shouts out to Erika Kirk, who tweeted about this earlier this week. The now archived report titled "What National Institute of Justice Research Tells Us About Domestic Terrorism" was reportedly removed from the DOJ's website between September 11th and September 12th. This is according to Jason Palladano, who is an independent investigative reporter. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk had, been killed on September 10th, and then a couple days later, this report all of a sudden got archived for some reason. Now, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, President Trump and others in the administration have just repeatedly claimed that the radical left is causing tremendous violence and that they seem to do it in a bigger way than groups on the right. But this study, which was based on research spanning 3 decades, represented one of the most comprehensive government assessments ever of domestic terrorism patterns. And it found that militant, nationalistic, white supremacist, violent extremism has increased in the United States, and that the number of far-right attacks continue to outpace all other types of terrorism and domestic violent extremism in America. Now, murders by ideology and politically motivated attacks since 1975, excluding 9/11. Basically, they have 9 that are kind of uncategorized. They can't really, align it to one group, if you will. But there was 4 that were part of separatism. There was 8 that were considered foreign nationalism. There was 143 that were Islamic in nature. And then there has been 265 that have been from left extremist ideas, and there has been 391 that have been from far-right extremist ideologies. And again, if we actually want to try to attempt to solve the problems within America, we actually have to be honest about the problems in America. And I have heard from some white people who have felt that they feel like the Caucasian Americans have been getting blamed for a lot, and just a lot of random things, if you will, that I do not agree with, in the sense that if you are a minority in America for as long as you have lived, you have seen news stations like Fox News all day, every day, tell you how all the problems of the world is because of you. If you are a queer person, you have seen society, forever tell you how you are an abomination and how, you shouldn't exist and you should go through some type of conversion therapy to get away from this satanistic approach that you have towards, sets and sexuality and love and all that. We have seen minority groups targeted just for so long. And I think over the course of the past 20 years, we finally started to have America wake up as America continues to get more and more diverse. And it hasn't necessarily been that the conversation has shifted to white people are bad. The conversation shifted to we need to focus on being anti-racist and anti-bigoted in this country. And we need to open up the doors to more voices. And we need to really, break down what the fuck is actually happening in this country. And I have, said 1,000 times in my life that the only reason why Donald Trump was able to become a president is because Obama won and white people got horrified. White people saw a black man become in a position of power, and they said, and then, the very next election, you had Hillary, a woman running for president, and you had a bunch of bigoted, old school minded white males who saw this and were like, holy shit, we're losing this fucking country. We need to take this country back by any means necessary. And Trump is their guy because Trump is in there with backing by people from the Heritage Foundation, which I have argued is the new face of the KKK. And they are doing any and everything to make sure that everyone knows that white people are innocent, white people are the true children of God, and that everybody else is a horrible individual that needs to die. And it is dangerous because, quite frankly, when you think about the saying of live by the sword, die by the sword, America was put together on the backs of racism. And if we continue to trend in this direction, America will be destroyed because of racism. Now, moving on to what the fuck world news, the United Nations General Assembly took place this last week, and Trump essentially got on stage and told the world that they are stupid and him be smart.
You have to end it now. Sid, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Yeah, that's going to, kind of help bridge the gap on the world stage and help countries to realize that they need to continue to trade with us so we can keep our GDP up. Also, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu got up to speak, and 90% of the United Nations got up and walked out.
Some in the crowd there that was motivated.
Order in the hall.
And he will take the speech. We will listen to it here, and we'll have analysis for you on the other side.
Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall.
What you're seeing here is the big walkout from the UN General Assembly, Sandra, because this actually has happened before to Prime Minister Netanyahu. You can see that the applause is coming from the Israelis as they sit there and watch these individuals decide that they can't sit and listen to a speech.
And trying to get order as Benjamin Netanyahu looks ready to deliver his speech. He is watching on.
So yeah, to all you Trump supporters and all you pro-Israel folk out there, do you really think you're on the right side of history?
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table to figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Sir? If you would prove your love,
right,
you should do your worst.
My worst? What do you mean?
Instead of winning to honor me with your high reputation, I want you to act against your normal character and do badly.
Do badly?
Lose.
No, losing proves nothing, except that I'm a loser.
Wrong. Losing is a much keener test of your love. Losing would contradict your self-love, and losing would show your obedience to your lover and not to yourself.
Really? Woman.
Do not me and spare him. Now be gone. Go! What is your answer?
I will not lose.
Then you do not love me.
Sir?
Now, we had a lot of new music come out this past week, and first things first, I am not the biggest Cardi B fan, but I do recognize that she is a superstar, and quite frankly, I am a fan of beef and battle rap, and she absolutely smoked Bia on a new record that came out this week. Let's get into it.
I got this new song called Pretty and Petty, and they told me she put Bia in a bag.
Bia song's gun pointed to your head. Bow, I'm dead.
That was the opening line. Name 5 Bia songs with a gun to your head. Bang, now I'm dead. It's simple, but it's Ether.
That melatonin flow putting us so bad. I'm doing you a favor, epic, run me my bread.
She said melatonin flow putting us to bed. Bia, I know you in the studio. Listen, I like Bia. I like Bia a lot. But you better be in the studio, Bia, right now. And it can't be that, like, you gotta go in. Die on a surgery table. Looking like you, and that's a nice rebuttal, too. Nice, she battle rapping. Because we already know if you're battling Cardi B, one thing you're going to use is the surgeries and stuff. That's a good angle to attack. That she's already getting in front of that, being like, listen, yeah, I got surgeries. I would rather, and you might even say you could die on this. I would rather die on the surgery table than walk around looking like you. So if you go, oh, you got plastic, which I still, if she's still good enough, she can still use that angle. B, you can still use that angle on her.
Wanna beef with me? Are you sure? Do she even got a BET award?
I don't like how you say even got a BET award. I don't like that one, Cardi. What you mean even got a BET award? What you mean you ain't even got a BET award? Like that's a lesser award or some shit. What you mean?
Sweat me cause you're bored. Just a big lap dog, be a Labrador.
Big lap dog, be a Labrador.
Stuck, hosting they ain't ready enough. Ooh. You a fake ghetto bitch and I don't like them. Your mama used to fuck around with white men. Disgusting. Girl, you trapped and I hate when a bitch think she cute cause she light skinned. Talking about culture, you wildin'. Look, me boy, you Italian. I'm Cardi B, shorty. Who you wanna be, shorty? You from Boston, let's have a little tea party. Why you got kicked out of that condo? Why you be online and be lying though? Why you always at Diddy house? I heard they come that little kitty out. Tell these folks what it's really about. Why you all on people's face with that shitty mouth? Diarrhea beer, breath so stank you can smell it before you see. I'm like, weave to the floor. I'm like, make her hate me even more. I'm like, hoes easy to ignore. It's been 2 years since you put a number on the board. I'm a bad bitch and you mad, cause you built like your dad. You damn near unemployed. They only book you when they can afford koi. Look, I got one album and I'm upstairs.
No. I've had enough.
New York City, you listen to me. If you're near a convenience store right now, any type of 24-hour store, go into the store right now and put your hand in the cash register for no reason. Their money is your money as of right now.
My God, yo, prayers up for Bia. Hopefully she's in the studio cooking up some heat, because if not, it might be a wrap for that poor young girl. Now, and some other hit records that came out this week.
Spent 22 grand on a hooker, brought her home, and that bitch had a dick. Told her get out my house, and she walked out my house. I had noticed her booty was thick. I was like, nah, never mind, you good. I'm a lumberjack, I can tolerate wood. Lay down, then we played us some Fortnite. Then we stripped down, then we had a sword fight. Is this gay, is this straight? I don't know, I just know that I pay for some weed in her hood. Then she start swinging that wood, she was swinging it good, look like prom Derek G in her hood. Shit, I think I might beat her, not beat her up, but like beat on her wiener. That big bubble butt, it done changed my demeanor. May take off them jeans, I ain't talking about Skeeter.
Now listen! That's called motherfucking bars, nigga. You know nothing about that.
Protect the dolls. Yo, shouts out to Dig Bar 22. I don't know when that record came out, but boy, oh boy, did that motherfucker heat up on TikTok and was just everywhere this week. And I don't know, maybe it's my algorithm. I ain't go hate, because over here at the Symphony of Thoughts podcast, we love all women.
Clitoris? Labia majora? Damn, girl, how many pussies you got?
So, we also got to see the return of the man that some call Black Jesus. Yes, we got the return of the man himself, Jay Electronica.
I'm a fiery hot ball of various degrees of energy. You couldn't imagine it just beginning me. And it's clear to anybody who watch me with eyes that I walk around with total disregard for the enemy. The entire trajectory of my career scream fuck the industry. Yet you can't have a debate about the greats and not mention me. Abracadabra, Houdini and David Blaine ain't got nothing on game. I came in the name who made earthquakes and rain. Fuck around with the fuck around and get your head split. My ancestors came to this land on slaves.
Who the fuck is Jay Electronica? And why is this such a big deal? Well, in order to explain that, we got a little bit of history that we got to dig into. So first things first, over the past week, Jay Electronica, out of the blue, dropped 5 projects, again, in the span of a week. And this led a lot of people to speculate what the fuck is going on. And then also, even GQ wrote an article entitled Jay Electronica is dropping a ton of new music, so the end must be near. Now, for those who are not familiar with that joke, the New Orleans rapper first gained buzz around 2007, 2008, and quickly became one of the most intriguing and highly revered wordsmiths in contemporary hip hop. And in 2007, we saw a large financial crisis worldwide, which was dubbed the Great Recession. Now, he's regarded as one of rap's greatest what-ifs, and this is because he never quite harnessed his buzz to become truly active, and he hasn't really been consistent in the rap game. Instead, he chose mystique and reclusivity. My bad. My apraxia was kicking my ass for a moment there. But essentially, he emerged in a bidding war in 2010 with a nice little deal with Jay-Z's Roc Nation, only to then disappear again and then reemerge here and there with some features, a couple of little loose singles, a couple of freestyles here and there, just kind of whenever he felt like it. It just seemed like the man just did not give a fuck about rap and would just kind of pop in and pop out like Houdini. Now, in the meantime, there was a lot of whispers about his strange and just often random movements, and all this just boosted this mythology based around him, including the time when he had a affair with Kate Rothschild that resulted in the end of her marriage. And for any of the Illuminati boys out there, y'all know what that Rothschild name means in the grand scheme of all that. But we won't get into all that right now. But he finally got around to dropping his debut album, which was called A Written Testimony, 10 years later on March 13, 2020. And it was a good album, even though it was kind of considered more of a collaboration album with Jay-Z, because Jay-Z was on nearly every song. And so it wasn't truly a Jay Electronica album, but it was indeed basically his debut album. And again, it came out on March 13th of 2020, which was the exact week that COVID-19 outbreak happened. And in March 11th of 2020, it was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. So to recap again, Jay Electronica first materialized right ahead of a historic financial crisis, and then returned and gave us new music, and then a global pandemic happened. And once again, out of the blue, Jay Electronica is back. And as we are aware, there's quite a lot of weird stuff going on in the world today, some of which I talked about earlier in this podcast, and some more that I will get into later on in this podcast. But right now, he had one of the songs that got released was called 4,400,000,000 / The Worst Is Yet to Come. And on that song, he raps, "Hove been such a brother to me and so patient with me. I gave him 19 albums in one day and he ain't have to pay me." Does Jay Elect have more than a dozen additional albums they're about to drop? What the fuck? And also, could this all be what Act 3 of his music career is? Now, those who, again, don't know the history and all the mystery behind Jay Electronica, that's why I'm here to educate you on it. There's the magic trick. And essentially, Jay Electronica has named some projects alluding to some type of magic trick. His first debut mixtape, which was self-published and came out, he actually dropped it on MySpace on July 2nd of 2007. It was called Act 1, The Pledge. And this mixtape was essentially a one-track album that one song was 15 minutes long, and it sampled 5 different tracks from American record producer John Bryan's 2004 film score Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. The mixtape covered a range of themes and subjects, including hip-hop, Islam, unidentified flying objects, and it was very noticeable for its lack of drums throughout the entire 15 minutes. It also featured spoken word openings from Jay Electronica's frequent collaborators, Just Blaze and Erika Badu. Then Act 2, The Patents of Nobility, The Turn, was his second album, and this was recorded in 2010 to 2012. So around that time period is when this album was recorded. The track listing was revealed to the world in 2012, and several songs from that project were released as loose singles that Jay Electronica dropped over the years, from Life on Mars, Better in Tune, Road to Perdition, The Shiny Suits Theory, Letter to Fallon, and all of these were like released through 2010 and 2017. And it was finally officially released October 5th of 2020, and this was months after that collab album I just talked about with Jay-Z called A Written Testimony. Now, that is odd, again, because as I mentioned, The Turn was recorded from 2010 to 2012, but didn't come out until 8 years later. There was some controversy also because around the original release, March 13th, for the written testimony, he posted a bunch of weird things on Twitter, and he basically claimed that he had a meeting with the Illuminati, the secret society that I mentioned earlier that is tied with the Rothschild family, and who he had an affair with one of the Rothschilds' people, if you will. And he basically said that there were certain groups in society that were part of the Illuminati, such as Dominicans, the Visigoths, which are a Gothic people who emerged in the Balkans during the late antiquity, and Jehovah's Witnesses. And this kind of led to him being accused of racism, religious discrimination, and also being a conspiracy theorist. So there's also some concerns I have seen from the Jewish community when it comes to Jay Electronica's music, because when he refers to the Jewish religion, he basically calls them the synagogue of Satan. And though I don't want to speak for him, I think that comes to a lot of the ideology behind what is known as the 5% Nation. And a lot of the people within those that ideology, they feel that black people are the true Israelites, and that was stolen from us. And there's a whole bunch of, background and conspiracies and just a variety of topics that we could dive into with that, but that's not what we're here for today. We're here for to talk about Jay Electronica and how on September 19th, which was his 49th birthday, he delivered a new body of work, which was called A Written Testimony Leaflets, as well as a written testimony Power at the Rate of My Dreams EP. Then on September 21st, he then dropped a written testimony, Mars, the Uninhibited Planet. And on the first song of A Written Testimony, Mars, the Inhibited Planet, he started off with a speech, and the speech is from Michael Caine, and Michael Caine played a role of this character named John Cutter in the 2006 film The Prestige. And The Prestige seems to be what this magic trick that Jay Electronica is alluding to is kind of based off of. Now, on the intro, John states that every magic trick consists of 3 parts or acts. The first part is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary, a deck of cards, a bird, or a man. He shows you this object. Perhaps he asks you to inspect it to see if it is indeed real, unaltered, or normal. But of course, it probably isn't. Now, the second act is called the turn. The magician takes the ordinary something and makes it do something extraordinary. Now you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it because, of course, you're not really looking. You don't really want to know. You want to be fooled. But you wouldn't clap yet because making something disappear isn't enough. You have to bring it back. That's why every magic trick has a third act, the hardest part, the part we call the prestige. Now, is it possible with Jay Electronica's career that he debuted with Act 1, which was him introducing himself as the latest up-and-coming rapper, which is an ordinary feat that we see constantly because a new rapper is born every single week. Then Act 2, the man disappeared from the rap scene, making a name for himself around the world with everything but rap. From his deep connection with the Nation of Islam to his global travels, his nomadic lifestyle, him having a child with Erika Badu, and also, like I said, his involvement with the wealthy heiress Kate Rothschild. Also, while Act 2 was recorded, it didn't actually come out until a decade later. So it's as if him, the music, everything, him as the rapper, disappeared. Then, finally, this month, we're introduced to Act 3, Jay Electronica's triumphant return with multiple albums releasing back-to-back. And as I asked the question earlier, could there be more than a dozen albums coming out? And if so, how would this change the perception of him as a rapper? Would this confirm that he is indeed extraordinary and solidify his prestige? I don't know. I guess time will tell. And so, again, the question begs, who the fuck is Jay Electronica? And that we may truly never know. But it is interesting that every time he drops new music, these worldwide events tend to happen. And a lot of his subject matter is based around religion, it's based around the gods, and it's based around aliens. Now, he has this one song that recently came out on one of the projects, and the title of the song is It Possible That the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is Still Physically Alive? And on that song, the first verse, he raps, I used to always wonder, where did God come from? I used to wonder where the 7 angels with them 7 bowls of apocalypse get their holy names from, and how the mighty Lamb has gone set up his royal kingdom. Always wondered about that city in the sky with all the bright lights and all them colors looking pretty in the sky. With all that gold, with all that emerald, with all that sapphire, and all that jasper, and all the pearl around the throne of the true living God. On the 25th of February, 1942, off the California coast, the Air Force turned their anti-aircraft batteries inward from the sea towards the Will and opened fire. Local cops was even firing their revolvers at the sky. They shot like 1,400 shells at the mother plane. As it slowly passed by Lockheed, they couldn't even stop it hovering. She injected a fleet of baby planes, you call them UFOs, and coming face to face with God absolutely terrified the government. That verse in particular stood out to me as he accounts to alien invasion and the Battle of 1942. That's a real life event. Look it up if you've never heard of it. It's a very interesting tale of the Air Force shooting at something over the skies of California. And to this day, we still don't have all the fucking information. But it's interesting that he tells this tale of possible aliens invading Earth. And he says that man came face to face with God. And in case you didn't know, there is an interstellar comet by the name of 3I Atlas that is set to reach Earth by December of this year.
3I Atlas was supposed to be nothing. A dead stone wandering in from interstellar space, catalogued, logged, and forgotten. But astronomers noticed something strange. Its trajectory, once a clean line across the solar system, has shifted. And there's no natural explanation. Something moved it. Now in capitals across the world, this change is being discussed. In Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and London, leaders are meeting with astronomers, physicists, and military generals, reviewing the same data, the same impossible correction, and the same unsettling question. What exactly is 3I Atlas? For months, the public was told it was harmless, a rock from beyond. But behind closed doors, telescopes track its every pulse, satellites measure its acceleration, and experts debate whether it's a probe, a weapon, or something far older. A few scholars point to ancient Sumerian writings that speak of a return. And so, the watching continues. The object drifts closer, possibly deliberate, and it doesn't appear to be random. No one knows what comes next, only that 3i Atlas has chosen a new path.
Now, the people who have been following this story online have been very intrigued by 3i Atlas. As that video just described, it's an interstellar object, and basically interstellar objects are objects that come from outside of our solar system, which is extremely rare. It was first discovered in July of 2025 by Atlas Survey in Chile, thus the name 3i Atlas, and it's only one of 3 known interstellar objects, the first being Oumuamua, and then the second one being 2I Borisov. Now, there's a lot of conspiracies and a lot of conversations based around 3i Atlas, and a lot of things that people were just trying to wrap their brain around, the trajectory to Earth and the visibility of it as it gets closer to us. There's some weird stuff with the typically comets have this like ice tail that you see, and this one doesn't quite have the same ice tail that we normally see on comets. There's been speculation about light coming from the front of the comet, which is very odd because typically that's the reason why, you know, when you see a comet, it has that tail because it's the ice is melting and then it shows the tail behind it. But for some reason, there seems to be possibly some type of light coming from the front of the comet. There's been speculation around the large amounts of carbon dioxide that the telescopes are picking up coming from this interstellar object, which is very odd. Now, people are intrigued by this comet because it's not like any comet that we have seen in our solar system. And then there has also been concerns about the trajectory, how it's coming towards Earth. Apparently, it's going to pass Mars roughly around October, which then we'll finally be able to get some close pictures of it. So that's one of the things I would like to kind of point out to the people who have been following this story. Any article, any video you see where people are like, oh, we got the clearest shots of the comet, I would advise to not pay too much attention to that because we're not supposed to get any type of clear pictures until it's close to Mars, which is around October, when one of the satellites that we have near Mars should be able to get a picture of it. So again, anything that you see now about pictures, it's not real. Now, after it crosses Mars, apparently the closest it's supposed to get to Earth, and let me first off say that there's no concerns with the trajectory and with this comet, this interstellar object hitting our planet. That's not necessarily what the concern is. The concern is when it's closest to Earth, it's actually going to be on the opposite end of where the sun is. So when it's closest to Earth, we're not going to be able to see it. That is one thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that when we notice comets and we notice these things flying through space, we're seeing things that are coming from the opposite direction of the sun. Anything that would be heading towards us from the direction of the sun, we cannot see because the sun is so bright. You cannot look up in the stars in that direction. So it's very odd that this interstellar object is coming in this trajectory, and at the point that it's going to be closest to Earth, it will kind of be in a blind spot for us. And just I think we would all have to agree the mathematical chances of that are very slim. So just another reason why this is just very interesting. Now, there are some scientists, and not all of them. Neil deGrasse Tyson went on a whole little thing on his Star Talk podcast talking about how, you know, this ain't a big deal. You know, it's a comet. You know, people who are trying to say that it's aliens are, you know, kind of being absurd. But there are some scientists who have floated the idea that this may be alien technology or just something artificial. I've seen people concerned about the amount of CO2, and as far as we know, large amounts of CO2 like that comes from something breathing in oxygen. Like, as far as we know from our science, that is what that is. And so if this fucking huge thing is flying in the sky and it has all this CO2 coming from it, as far as we know from a scientific perspective, that's typically what we see in stuff breathing. So that would lead us to believe that there's something on that comet that is breathing in oxygen and blowing out CO2. And then again, there's the green glow. There's the lack of water vapor off the back of it, and the possible artificial light emission from the front. Like, it's just a lot of things that does not make sense, that really just makes us question a ton of things. But to be frank, you know, maybe it's a random comet. Maybe we're mistaken, and we're taking our limited understanding of the solar system and trying to apply those limited equations to objects that are not of our solar system. And quite frankly, you know, objects not of our solar system, by all means, could behave completely different. If you're being realistic, currently we understand or know of or have mapped about 5% of the visible universe. So that 5% figure basically kind of maps to the universe's content, which is currently believed to be about 5% is normal matter, 27% is dark matter, and 68% is dark energy. So the great majority of the universe is just a mystery to us. We have only seen a small fragment of it, and we have only been able to test a fucking minuscule amount of it. So quite frankly, how comets work in our solar system may not be how comets work throughout the universe. We don't know. Also, one of the things that, I mean, we do know, if we want to, you know, kind of just break down what we do know, what can logically be stated. This is the third interstellar object that we ever observed. First, there was the Moya Moya one, which was first discovered in our solar system in 2017. And it was characterized by this highly elongated shape, unusual brightness variations, and this acceleration that couldn't quite be explained by typical solar radiation. I remember when that comet first kind of came into the solar system, there was a lot of speculation about, is this a mothership? What is that? Because just the shape of it was very odd. That's not also the shape of comets as we know them. Then the second interstellar object that was detected in our solar system was 2I Borisov, and we didn't really get a whole lot of information, or there wasn't as much speculation around that one as the Moya Moya one. But then now we have 3I Atlas, and quite frankly, I mean, I guess we'll learn more about this object at the end of the year. And to be frank, speaking for myself, I wouldn't mind if it was intelligent life that was coming to visit this planet, because quite frankly, maybe a foreign threat would help humans to realize that we're all one species and that there is no need for all this racism, sexism, homophobia, and bigotry, you know, because we're all we got in this universe. I think back to 9/11 and when the Twin Towers got hit, and that was the first time as a Black American that I truly felt like an American, because for the first time, you know, all the hate in the country wasn't aimed at one another. We were looking outside at foreign entities trying to attack us, and we all kind of came together and we were patriotic for a moment. And maybe just with all the chaos in the world and how it looks like, you know, fucking America is on the brink of a civil war. And then with all this mistrust and distrust within the world, you know, it looks like we're on the brink of World War III. You know, maybe we need a fucking alien invasion for us to wake up and look at one another as one human species. I don't know. I also hope that if the end is nigh, it can't end like this, with me going through 40 years of life of struggling and attempting to change my stars. And when changing my stars is finally on the horizon, it all comes to an end. It can't happen that way. It can't.
We could do this.
Do it. We've done it, boy. That's silver in your hand.
No, I mean, we can do this. We can be champions. Give us your coins. Well, now, come on, give me your coins. Right. Right, now that's one for you. And one for you. Which leaves 13. That's 13 for training and outfitting. Now, the tournament in Rouen is in a month from now. In 1 month, we could split a prize bigger than this one. In 1 month, we could be on our way to glory and riches none of us ever dreamed of.
In 1 month, we could be laid in a ditch with Sir Hector. I don't want glory and riches, William. I just want to go home.
Tansy cakes with peppermint cream. Dilled veal balls with squash fritters. I'll take my 5 now. Oh, wait up! You're going the wrong way!
But you can't even joust.
Well, most of it is the guts to take a blow, to strike one. Guts I have. And technique? I have a month to learn that. Besides, the sword. Name a man better with the sword than I.
In the practice ring.
You're not of noble birth.
Well, so we lie. How did the nobles become noble in the first place, huh? They took it. At the tip of a sword. I'll do it with a lance.
A blunted lance?
Oh, no matter what, a man can change his stars. And I won't spend the rest of my life as nothing.
That is nothing, and nothing is right where glory will take us.
We're the sons of peasants. Glory and riches and stars are beyond our grasp, but a full stomach, that dream can come true.
If you can take your coins, go to England, eat cake. But if you can't, you come with me. You see, money doesn't matter.
You see how hungry I am? Do you?
Damn your stomach, what? Molly, please. For 13 silver pieces, 3 men can change their stars.
But I don't know. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll find out. But until next time, take care of yourself and each other.
You have been weighed.
You have been measured.
And you absolutely
Have been found wanting. Welcome to the new world. God save you, if it is right that he should do so.